Welcome into State of the SEL. It's Bepic and Infernosis back for another week of breaking down everything Southeastern Esports League and its playoff season. So perfect time to start doing that as Rocket League and Valorant both officially begin their postseason push this week. Of course, Mr. Bepic and Mr. Infernosis, how you doing this fine evening?
I'm doing pretty good. Didn't get to get a whole lot of, the upper echelon Valorant action in last week because the LCQ had ended. But man, oh man, the Rising Stars proved to be a riveting week, and I'm excited to break that down as this goes on.
Yeah, we've got Rising Star to break down, playoff brackets to break down, last chance qualifier results to break down. So we should just go ahead and jump straight into it so we don't stress Fred out and test the limits of how long the State of the SEL can go. So if you want to start talking Valorant, Scott, I think it's time for it.
All right, well, we'll first go over where we say our highlighted matches of the week, right, that we saw. Like I said, there wasn't really a lot going on for the LCQ. It was purely the Rising Stars. We had this weird LCQ bracket format we were working with this semester that will be changed in the future. I make sure I enunciate that every single week. But I'll first talk about the USC and ETSU game that we had on broadcast. It was really good. Map 1 on Fracture. For the same reason I thought the GMU game previously was really impressive when they had Fracture. It was very similar where they dominated in that first half, made it really hard to recover in the second half. But it was actually the reversal of that. It was kind of polarity for it. Instead of it being a super dominant offense in their post plants, it was actually a really dominant defense. So I loved seeing that out of them. But the second map was where things truly went crazy for USC. They were down at halftime, 8-4 if I recollect correctly. Then they had a very difficult time in the first stages there on their turnaround for offense. And the defense for ETSU were holding out fairly strong. They had a lot of success stories coming out from Zenith, but then Zenith stopped being able to do Zenith's things that they were doing in the first half, and it turned into this really tumultuous defensive performance of Zenith moving in with no one there to assist, them losing out for frags, and then the overall department for ETSU were struggling to find success. They got to double digits, they squeaked out one in between, but then a 6-round major comeback for USC negated all of the potential momentum that was bringing out. And man, oh man, it was just a super solid performance overall, especially from Ithaca, who was a really clutch player in my opinion across both maps for USC. They secured it for him. That was a great game. You turn that around then to Landers versus Florida. You had this really close one for our first highlight match. You turn it over to Landers v Florida. This one, maybe not so much. 13-0 on our first map of Icebox. Not a great stat line for Florida White, but Landers University Varsity is a very solid roster and a very good team. So this was a tough matchup on paper, but it just turned into being outplayed in a lot of departments. And the kill department was just super successful for Aerial, 21-2 across those 13 maps. You turn that over to our second map and our last map in this 2-0 series. This was over to Fracture once again, and this one was a 13-1. So this was only 1 round difference from the already dominant performance of the first map. And again, Aerial leading this one with an even higher stat line, 31-5 across this, which means they dropped 52 players on Florida Riot's roster with only 7 deaths and 3 assists and only 27 total rounds that got played. Now, for the first map, that was greatly assisted by Kronos, and then on Fracture was greatly assisted by Narda. So there was impact players that really elevated Aerial. They put them up on a pedestal and gave them that stand. But man, oh man, was that a ridiculous stat line to bring to the table for what very well could have been a good Rising Star match on paper. And then UTK Orange versus Liberty. Unfortunately, we can't really bring this one up. League of West has an issue. I don't think one of the teams input their rosters or anything successfully for it, and it's kind of bugging out. But let's take a look. It's at the bottom, if I recollect, UTK Orange versus Liberty. Again, this was a 2-0 series. This turned into a cheese chomper affair. They went 56-32, so slightly more kills overall than we saw coming out from Aerial, but obviously much higher deaths and a little bit more so in the assist department. But they went 31-21 on map 2 as a raise, really playing the heavy trade game with Liberty, who were much more evenly spread across the kill department. I call a team that frags together tends to win together, but that just was not the case coming out for Liberty. A very tough game, but not able to pull it out. And then map 1 wasn't as tough of an affair. We had full OT Thriller on our second map, but map 1 was just a 13-6 slaughter as Pearl was on the docket, and they brought a very non-standard for a lot of team compositions right now because they really favor things like the Yoru, the ISO for the map. They changed that up and we want the Jet here for Cheese Chomper to go absolutely crazy with it. We want to have that Vice for the lockdown potential, just overall for Sentineling on defense, as well as the validity for it in the post plants on offense. And then we want that Teo and Astro combo. There's a lot here. And then the bait potential from the Fade. All of those just elevated UTK Orange to a 13-6 total scoreline for the map and really just locking out any potential rounds more than 6 for Liberty.
All right, so Rising Star in Valorant is so exciting. I mean, well, maybe not
It's
the
so
13-0,
crazy.
13-1, but I mean, a lot of upsets here as well. I wish we had the capabilities to stream Rising Star as much as we should be able to here
Yeah.
with a lot of the upsets happening. I mean, South Carolina and ETSU getting to be on stream last week, I think, is great. Getting to feature Rising Star while the playoffs were being set. Last chance qualifier had already finished up because they put on a showcase that second map.
Yeah, it was real. I loved watching that. Unfortunately, I was sick. I had just caught food poisoning the night before, so I was totally out of commission. I had just cracked a joke with Fred the day before, saying I had yet to miss a single broadcast ever for the SEL when I was scheduled, and
Look what
curses
you
come
did.
true. And the very next day, look what happens. Food poisoning, could not make it. I was at my wits' end, so upset about it. But we had a great substitute coming in. Super thankful for them as well. And they got to be on a side stream, or technically a stream, but a side broadcast for it on the Saturday prior, and then they get to be on the mainstream that Thursday. And they were very willing to sub in at the last moment. I think once again drop another one of their broadcasts that they were planning to do for their program. So shout out to them. We're super thankful for it. But somehow, some way, I can make it in a Rocket League broadcast that week, but can't make it to the Valorant broadcast. And I do
You made up for
sincerely
it.
wish we get to do more Rising Star along the way. I need to be reaching out way more often in the early stages of the week to try to get those games out, to maybe poke at the mindset of these players and have a lot more information for our Rising Stars playoffs, which is panning out to be pretty crazy. I mean, we look at the lower side, these teams that are 13-0, 13-0. That's not going to happen next week because they're facing a team that 13-0 as a team that just 13-0. This next week should very well be the one where we truly see them pit off against each other. And I think USC has a very long route ahead of them because I think they very much so will probably make it to that grand finals of the way they played.
Definitely keep an eye on Valorant Rising Stars in the SEL. Rocket League's fairly exciting. It's getting there, where we're at the end of a huge bracket, and it is getting quite exciting. We'll talk about later on, but I do want to run through the Rocket League highlights real fast. The majority of them are just last chance qualifier series. First one is Kennesaw State B and Clemson, who went to Game 5 in a playoff clinching series, and there were some technical difficulties on the Kennesaw State end. I don't remember who exactly it was. I think it was Shady maybe that was having some PC issues. And so Clemson had a 2-1 series lead in this one, and very close games as well. But Kennesaw State did manage to escape and get into playoffs. They went to 2 Game 5s in their last 2 series to get to the postseason. So shout out to Clemson. First of all, that is a worthy team of making a strong push to playoffs like this. They beat Oklahoma in Game 5 in the series before. So showing some good progress that team is. Maysal's getting his boys together. And I'm excited to see what Clemson can do next season because they're always hanging around the conversation in the SEL. But Kennesaw State, it's their first postseason berth in SEL history, in fact. So congrats to this team for getting to the postseason for the first time ever. They've had, I think, 4 or 5 semesters in the SEL, and typically it's not been the A, the B, the C team, but still, this squad's finally gotten to the postseason for Kennesaw State. And speaking of new team to the SEL, UT Arlington and Louisiana also went to Game 5 here. Again, there were technical difficulties in the, I think Louisiana had either Juro or Jackson, a J name, with some internet issues. So they were lagging and got reverse swept by UT Arlington. So we were very close to having a situation where the postseason had 3 teams from Tier 2 Group 3, which would have been crazy, having Louisiana, George Mason, and Kennesaw State all in the postseason after playing in the same group together in Tier 2. But UT Arlington did escape that, and they're playing their postseason match right now against South Carolina on Gamecock Esports. And last I checked, South Carolina had won Game 1. It looks like they just closed out Game 2. So South Carolina are looking like they are well on their way to beating the Mavericks at UT Arlington. And then another team that's kind of on the lower side of playoff seeding, Auburn and FAU. Auburn squeaked into the postseason after beating the Owls of FAU on stream, and that was a messy series. Hums played, I think, the first 2 or 3 games of that best of 5 before subbing out for Vroco, and it was difficult for Auburn to get back in that series after going down 2-1, but they managed it. All 1-goal games, went to Game 5 on stream, and FAU, I think same boat as Clemson. That's a team I'm excited to watch next season, whatever their roster may look like. And Auburn, makes it through to playoffs. So that sets our field for the 12 teams in SEL Rocket League postseason. And it was majority game fives. That the last chance qualify really does never disappoint, Scott.
No, I think at any stage you could look at a match and be like, well, I could see it go this way, I could see it go this way, and it always somehow is not what you expected nonetheless, which when you would like to consider both teams should be evenly matched on paper and it still turns the other way, you're like, what is happening? Because then you have the crazy things like a player not being available until the final two games and the comeback having to be made there for Auburn, right? You have stories like this where they just out of nowhere they have to make a giant recovery and be a Titan. So it's like USC having to make the 6th-round comeback at the end of the second map and shut out the chance for map 3 to get played, which looking at that map ban selection, I think honestly probably would have given UTSU enough of an edge to win things out. I think there's just so much happening in esports. You can never write things on paper because the moment you do, you just wasted the ink, baby. It's not telling you nothing.
All right, well, let's pass some accolades out as well and talk more about the chaos of bracket play after we do that, because we do have some players and teams to honor. Scott, I believe you have a player of the week and a team of the week you want to honor here.
Yeah, my player of the week, there's a couple like really tough choices for it. I had mentioned Ariel, who dropped, 52 and 7 with 3 assists. You had Cheese Chomper, who went 56 and 32. You had Ithaca for USC, who was kind of this highlight pivotal player for the team. Wasn't top frags, but I think was only like 3 short of being in across their 2 maps. But it has to go to a player that literally was the team, right? It has to go to Ariel. Ariel was by far the entire team. Now, the whole team elevated them. I had mentioned, on map 1, it came down to, as I look back at my notes here for this one, on map 1, it was Kronos, and then it was Narda over on Fracture, and they really, really elevated this duelist to kind of get into the face and make these impact plays. But you don't drop 52 kills in a best of 3 in 2 maps. The other one, Cheese Chomper, had OT at least to kind of help them out, right? They had a map on map 2 that had to play a ton of rounds. 13-14, the final score. So they had more to play into. You're doing this with only 27 in your back pocket and playing like that. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I could see why this university and their director was super excited about what they were bringing to the table here for the SEL. And with the way it's panning out, we got to give a close eye, a good magnifying glass on Ariel here and the rest of the team, because you don't just play like that with a single one in the back pocket. And as for, team of the week, we didn't get to see a lot, and there was a lot of 13-0s, and I don't want to count 13-0s as being a team effort. I think the Ariel play was, a lot of good team play, but that's Ariel being a menace, and it takes a team to be a team, right? It takes all 5. And for that, it's got to go to USC with their survival overall through that best of 3 series, through map 1, the major comeback in map 2. They absolutely deserve it. And they get some assistance. They get some on-stream bias in some capacity, but I wasn't on-stream casting it, so throw out all the biases. I just got to enjoy it as a viewer like everybody else. And with Ithaca, who was able to be like such an important player in big rounds, 2Ks and 3Ks to secure, you never felt like when Ithaca would die that the round was over, and that's a big problem when you see teams like, UTK Orange or Cheese Chomper or Landers, where they would have, Ariel. If you lose that player, you're like, we have a chance. The raid boss is dead. It never felt like that, I think, for ETSU. They always were worried about what was in front of them. They were always worried about the players that were remaining. And obviously, USC got in the heads of them and managed to make that comeback and shut out the 12th round that was needed for at least overtime. That eluded them for 5 rounds in a row, if I recollect correctly, on map 2 of Haven. Overall, wonderful team from them and a wonderful week from them. They have a lot of tough matches still ahead of them.
All right, so the Carolinas get both of our Valorant accolades for the week. So shout out to the Carolinas.
Landers is on Ariel, but I still accolade Ithaca. But no, Landers gets player of the week, Blake.
Right, yeah, Lander University is in the Carolinas.
Is that in the Carolinas? Yeah. I thought you were just saying.
I forget if it's north or south, but I know it's one of them. So
I gotta work on my geography.
Yeah, you do. So shout out Lander, shout out South Carolina for taking home the Valorant Awards. But we're going way down south for Rocket League. My team of the week is Florida. Not necessarily for anything within the SEL. I think them placing top 2 in their winner's circle group is pretty good, but I got to watch this team at Collision on the Coast land this past weekend. We featured it last week, talking about all the different SEL teams that were competing at Collision on the Coast. Florida placed top 2. It was some of the best Rocket League I've seen out of the Gators since this roster came together at the start of the fall semester. Hammy Crackers is on a completely different level. I don't officially have like a Player of the Week accolade set for Rocket League, but I'd probably give it to Hammy. I'll just give it to the whole team though, because Florida was astounding. Top 2, almost bracket reset Akron Gold, and Akron Gold's a top 25 CRL team. So Florida is looking very good right now, very scary. I put out my playoff predictions on socials and YouTube earlier today for Rocket League, and I've got Florida making a pretty deep run there. So congrats to the Gators. You guys looked phenomenal this week, and I think we can use that as a segue to jump into the Rocket League playoff seeding and show off the bracket. As I've talked about South Carolina and UT Arlington playing right now, talked about how Florida might be making a deep run. So let's show off the 12 teams that we do have competing in the Rocket League playoff bracket, because this, I think, I'm pretty confident in saying this, is the most stacked Rocket League postseason that we have ever had in the history of the SEL. And it helps that we've got basically a semi-pro team in Cumberland kind of leading the charge, but top to bottom, this is such a good lineup for postseason teams. And even when we've kind of shrunk the bracket down, previously it was 16 teams or 8 teams in SEL postseasons. And either way, right in the middle, this is still one of the best brackets ever. And I'll start with the streamed matches that we're going for this week, because Florida Southern and George Mason are going to be on stream first. And Scott, I know you're not with me to enjoy this one this week, but it should still be a banger. George Mason's coming in with a top 3 finish at Collision on the coast as well. Florida Southern has been playing some of their best Rocket League that I've seen out of them. It's 2 confident squads coming together, meeting head on, and that's always a recipe for a great series.
Yeah, unfortunately, I won't even be able to watch it live either. I'm going to have to VOD review Rocket League. Like, bless my poor soul that has to go out of the way to do that. But I think that's a good enough matchup to warrant having to tune in a separate moment, as we'll have a side stream broadcast going on at the same time for Valorant. But I may have to cheat a little bit and not pay enough attention to it and actually have the main stream open.
That's what I do for. I was casting NECC last week. I definitely was doing the same thing for SEL Valorant and had it on my other monitor while I should have been paying attention to NECC Rocket League. But it's all right. Hopefully none of the talent managers there are listening to this broadcast right now. But the winner there does get Cumberland, so you're fed to the Sharks, even if you do come out on top of that one. And you don't actually get extra points for winning in round 1 here, because if you lose round 2, you go down that far left side of the lower bracket. But James Madison, top seed coming out of Winner's Circle, they got their first choice in Auburn. That's who they picked to play round 1. Because for those that don't know, the seeds 6 through 8 were able to select their opponents. Well, actually, Florida Southern technically was stuck with George Mason. None of the other 3 teams wanted George Mason. So sorry, FSC, you got the hot GMU roster. But James Madison's first choice was Auburn. That's fair. I think Auburn hasn't put up great results so far this season. They were in Tier 1. Their only quality win is really UT Arlington and FAU, if you want to count that to get into playoffs. And so James Madison, they wanted this Auburn Tiger team to start off with, and then that series that they may hypothetically play if they close out the Auburn Tigers in round 1 against UT Dallas will be our other streamed match. So all of you listening right now, make sure you do tune in for the stream on Wednesday. It will be a couple of bangers. But South Carolina UTA playing right now. UTA was South Carolina's second choice. Everybody chose Auburn as their first choice. And actually, I think we have the results. If we want to show the final screen cap of the stream up on broadcast, we'll shout out Gamecock Esports for streaming this one. I had it on my separate monitor, and there you go. That's how it ended. A 3-0 sweep for the South Carolina Gamecocks. So I had that one, I think, go into game 5. But USC took care of Arlington quickly. So we'll look back at the bracket here in a second. But like I said, that was their second choice. South Carolina, this is UT Arlington. And then Florida's second choice was Kennesaw State, who they'll be taking on later tomorrow. I think it'll be an hour later than normal. So we'll get to talk about it on the main broadcast. But Florida and KSU playing for the luxury of getting Bruton Parker Academy next up there. So stacked playoff bracket. Really excited to be covering all of this tomorrow. Same time, same place. If you're used to it, 7 Central, Esports SEL on Twitch. If you're listening right now and you're hearing this, you know where to be tomorrow. But with all this in mind, we do have some LAN clinchers as well. We shout out to the Liquipedia keepers, as they have calculated, and it's really Shaka doing a lot of the calculating here, that Florida and East Tennessee State have clinched LAN alongside Bruton Parker, who were kind of a shoe-in already because they won the fall splits. But we got top 3 locked in, Scott. And I know Val doesn't have the luxury of having locked in teams just yet, because only 6 make it. But LAN's starting to shape up here.
Yeah, this is going to be very impressive. In Florida, I don't think we'll have the luxury of being able to make it for the Valorant side, but seeing them, be confident enough to make it on the Rocket League side is really nice. And then ETSU obviously being knocked out of Rising Stars as well is unfortunate for him. But when program can overpower, individual rosters, and it can elevate the entirety, I think that's where the biggest thing is. The crazy part would be we very well could still have James Madison, GMU, and Charlotte make it to LAN for Valorant, and they could also make it to LAN for Rocket League. And then, of course, the big conversation point of Cumberland, if they finish out as expected for this Rocket League semester, they should end up making it right to the LAN as well. That's the same story for Valorant side. They should still end up making it if they do what's expected and take first place at the end of the semester, even with the people in the prior semester having earned points and having those in their docket. It's an excessive amount of points this semester to make up for people not being in the semester prior. It's looking like we're gonna have a lot of repeat teams across both games,
which is pretty cool to have that really in the SEL. Yeah,
just bring a bus.
We're really seeing which programs are establishing themselves as top competitors, because there are a lot of programs in the Southeast now, but we've kind of evolved in the collegiate scene from just like having a program giving out scholarships to now we are all kind of in a position where we have some sort of funding. Even if club programs get some kind of funding occasionally to travel or something like that, or they have a game room, something like that. And so now it's about competition, like which school is the best all around in esports. The fact that we could have, 4 or 5 schools send both a Rocket League and a Valorant team to LAN is pretty cool.
Yeah, was Georgia in the docket at all from Rocket League? Do they have a Rocket League
No, unfortunately not. Well, they do have a team, but they're not in the conversation.
Because they very well could send 2 Valorant teams. Like, if UGA or Red get far enough in, they could theoretically send 2 Valorant teams.
That makes up for it,
well.
then.
So that makes up for it. They'd have to get pretty far, though, so we'll have to see how that pans out. But I think UGA Black has pretty much cinched, guaranteed, because their placement in winner's circle and for playoffs. But, man, I mean... and that's even more impressive considering we only have 6 slots for Valorant as well, right? So the repeat teams have such a limited space in which they have to slot themselves into for Valorant, so it just makes it even tougher.
UGA did play on LAN last year, at least for Rocket League, so they've got that to remember. But talking about the rest of the teams, kind of the conversation. Let's go to Rising Star. Actually, we've got Rising Star queued up because UGA is a pertinent topic of conversation for our Rising Star. If we show that bracket on screen, they have locked in the upper bracket. There is a lower bracket here. Top 4 UCF Academy. We knew they were favorites going into this. Just narrowly missed out on the last chance qualifier in that crazy tier 2 group 3. They're playing UTK Blue, which in my ear shock. That's the E team, right, for Tennessee? Okay, so technically the E team. I'm going to stick with technicals here because that's a really cool story. E team making it to the top 4 in the upper bracket of Rising Star, taking on UCF Academy. We'll see how they fare there. Because UCF Academy are definitely my favorites to win this whole thing, but cool story. UTK Blue making a run like this. And then on the bottom side, their other semifinal, UGA and Lander Academy, both duking out in semis. So that will be a good one. If it wasn't going on at the same time as the mainstream, that's a potential streamed match right there. The 2 and the 3 seed of Rising Star duking it out in semis. So Rocket League's finally at the point where we are quite entertaining. We've bypassed all the FFs, some of the 3-0 sweeps. And we've finally gotten to the really close series in Rising Star playoffs. So keep an eye on Rising Star. You never know what's going to happen down there in both esports, especially with the wild lower bracket, which has to catch up to uppers. So well done to those teams in the top 4 of the upper bracket of Rising Star playoffs. Good luck to them this week. But let's talk about as well actually, I think it's time for Valorant. I think we spent enough time on Rocket League. I was thinking about what we hadn't covered yet for Rocket League, but I kind of mishmashed the talking about seeding and the upcoming matches. So we covered that. How's Valorant doing?
Plenty fine. They had an off week for the LCQ, right? And heading into playoffs, they didn't have to worry too much about playing. That wasn't necessarily the case for the winner's circle, but I think one of the games forfeited and the other one turned in a result that was kind of expected. So it's whatever for them. So they didn't really matter at the end of the day. But we'll go ahead and throw up the playoff seating so everyone can get a visual. I'll break down who picked what, and then we have a sneaky little surprise coming up after that, because you'll notice one of these games is kind of shocking right off the forefront. Now it's the same exact story over for Rocket League, where the seeds 5 through 8 or 5 through 9 or whatever it is. They don't have the luxury. They have the luxury to pick the teams below them, and so it turned into this mosh pit of, we want the lowest ranked team. We want to kind of view into it. GMU had their first pick. They went for the lowest seeded team of UTC. Cumberland Destiny, they wanted UTC, but unfortunately was not available, so they had to take Niner Esports. Charlotte Esports went ahead and took Oklahoma, and that left UGA to who else but UAHA. And if you recollect correctly, folks out there, they've already faced each other, and apparently not just once, but twice already. So this is the third matchup for them that's coming up on the docket, and there's also the possibility of a fourth. But before we break into that one, we'll actually have a conversation with Gray, who plays and is, I think, the captain and coach for the side there of UAH. We've got him here for an interview where we can ask a couple of questions to maybe deep dive into the mind of this one, because this is a big enough series and a big enough now trilogy that we just got to have a conversation about it. Welcome, Gray, here to the booth. Nice to see you here. In not just the single capacity, we've had you on broadcast here before, but now in preparation stages, because you're playing this game not Thursday on air, but actually tomorrow, as we have a side stream for this one. How are you guys prepping for this in comparison to the 2 prior matches y'all have had? Oh,
all right. Yeah, I mean, Cumberland over the horizon, definitely a little bit rough, but like the chance to play UGA again. What is the series record overall? And I'm curious, like, is it a jovial kind of rivalry? Do you guys banter with each other in the chat at all, or just kind of show up and play each other and play each other again and then play each other again? Hmm.
I think, hey, 1 second here, Gray. I think you're still muted in vMix.
Oh no.
In vMix? We haven't gotten any of the funny points you've made to this point, or any of the highlights.
Well, stream knows it's funny, at least, because we were laughing.
Because we're laughing about it. Yeah, like it's on the wrong device. Okay. Okay. Oh. Can they hear Shock? Can they hear him now?
Oh,
there we go. Welcome, Gray, to the booth. We'll just restart, just rewind in time here for a moment. We'll touch on what was said. You said this is now the second matchup for you guys in a row. Every time y'all have faced, it's been a full 3 maps that's required of you. And in the process, it's never been more than a couple rounds really difference in total in the series. And there's honestly, it's not turning into like a big rivalry. Y'all are, you don't jab at each other. It's not too crazy. I should at 3.
Yeah.
Chaco, is he still muted?
Twitch chat saying he's still muted.
Is Twitch is Twitch chat just messing with him?
Oh, are they really? I'm on mute.
I'm about to unmute stream too.
Yeah, coming through. Okay, that would have been a good April Fool's joke. They would have actually. That would have been a really good April Fool's joke if they had said that. They thought we were the ones doing the April Foolsing here. All right,
we're working to fix it. All right, how about this? While this is going on, I'm going to touch on the prior games and maybe the House of Break and give an idea of how the prior matches is shown out. Gray, you stunk it up on Lotus for the first half of the map. It was horrendous. You said you went 0-10. Yeah, it truly felt like that, and it was very obvious through the entirety of that first half. I had mentioned as well prior to that series, and Georgia Red was kind enough to ask, can we, crouch? Can we shoot bodies? And I was like, y'all know on Red not to take it too seriously. I know y'all are worried about that. I don't think UEH would be worried about it either. I give you full permission, though, that if you kill Gray, you can shoot Gray's body, and no admin staff here for the SEL are going to find any complaints for it. Turn that around, though. They didn't actually shoot your body like at all, and then you lit off in the second half and came alive because y'all bring the most ridiculous composition you could possibly ask for Lotus. Y'all brought 4 Sentinels back in December or early February? Was it still 3? But yeah, the 3 Sentinel comp has been y'all's pride and joy for a very long time. And y'all have changed what those Sentinels are, and you've found varying success across it. But UJ Red is a team that obviously was proven to struggle individually on these points. In middle of games for recovery, didn't know how to fix themselves, where the problems arose, how to adjust afterwards. It came down to they, even with a timeout, they weren't able to get the answer for it. I don't think that's going to work now being the third time they'll see a triple Sentinels lineup from me, because it didn't work the first time, if I recollect correctly. It was an NECC game. I have an idea. If his audio isn't going to work, one second. If his audio, I'm going to route it through my own microphone. Talk real fast. That means you can't talk, Blake, because then it's gonna cut through. I apologize. That won't let me route it through my own microphone. I take it back. I'm gonna lie to you. Just straight up lie through my teeth.
Maybe we move on to other Valorant results here. Maybe get Gray's audio sorted in the meantime. Is that possible, production? We can figure out what's going wrong.
They're working on it in the background, so we'll quickly jump to other things really fast. Just no, we want to actually get Gray involved in this. But, first time we get an interview for the State of the SEL on broadcast, it's bound to have some errors. It was fairly last minute anyways to do. It's just some kind of audio was getting through.
We'll test it one more time.
You want to try refreshing the vMix feed, Gray, and making sure the audio thing is correct again?
All right. Hello. Let's see if we get him.
Hello.
Can stream hear him?
Chat? Is this real? Is this new
chat
text?
Spam? Oh, they can hear him.
They can hear me. This better not be an April Fool's joke.
Should we restart the interview now?
Oh, yeah. How far back?
Okay, but they do want to let you know, Gray, that you have scrims in 17 minutes, so we got to get you out the door.
Yeah.
I'm good. I don't need
5 minutes. We're gonna get this quick and easy. Get this finished for you. You touched on it. This is the third time. Do you have anything else you want to say about, going to the third, y'all's change in preparation for game 2, after game 2, how y'all changed after series 1? Just what's your take?
Yeah, so our preparation is, like I had said, we're scrimming in 17 minutes, like you just mentioned, but we practice. We just practice. We don't VOD review, really, kind of, occasionally, but it's mostly just we get as many games as we can, work on what we can during scrims and things like that, and then we hope that our room is open. We have yet to lose when we've played in the game room. So we're hoping that we can get it again tomorrow and continue the streak.
Okay, valid. Now, both of y'all have looked forward, and you said beforehand, and I kind of want to touch on that. I'll let you bring it up, that you and Georgia kind of this almost like unsung conversation point of looking ahead in the bracket at your next competition. And for those of you who maybe have forgotten after all these things happening, look ahead to who they were doing. It's Cumberland, right? It is the Cumberland Phoenix in front of you. What's the discussion point between your two teams about what's in front of you?
So when we rescheduled our game yesterday, I was messaging UJ Red's captain. He asked me, he said, have you seen who we're playing next week, depending on who wins this game? And I said, yes. And he said, good luck. And I said, if you win, good luck to you. It's been a fun season in SEL. Because I think we both understand that no matter how good we are, it's not going to be a game, like ever. I don't think. I wish we had Rocket League's lower bracket, so we had like maybe a chance to go a bit further. But yeah, there's, next week 5 duelists. Let's have some fun. See what we can make happen. I think it's gonna be the conversation if we win.
I think the joke is already out that you'll bring the 3 no competition anyway. So we'll
make it 5. We'll make it 5 for that one day.
Oh yes, that would be great actually. So Company Phoenix, if UAH squeak through, please do not ban Lotus in the map selection phase. We just for the sake of the broadcast, we have to see this in some capacity. But y'all have obviously faced each other a couple of times, and you'll have a 4th possible one now coming up in front of you as well. What's the requirements for the 4th, and what has brought y'all to that stage?
So the only requirements now is for UGA Red to win. All they have to do is win on Thursday. If they win, we play each other in the grand finals of ACC. So probably the biggest series that we could have gotten against them. It's going to be an upset, though, if they do, because the team that they have to play has not dropped a map in ACC yet. So they're really good. It's UNCW. I don't exactly know the name of the college, but yeah, it's gonna be a crazy upset for them to have to play us in grand finals.
Well, maybe they can pull it off. They're probably really looking forward to this match with you, so let's hope that they're also looking forward to the match on Thursday in prepping. Because I know UGA Black makes the jokes, they don't scrim, we don't VOD review, we just show up and play, we beat everybody, everyone else is bad. We know that's a lie, all right? You didn't get to a grand finals and win it without at least a little bit of practice. But they've obviously have been working on the offseason. I'm sure Red has been as well, because they've seen a lot of improvement in their stores and their stat lines and everything else across maps throughout this semester. And they were so darn close to wiping the floor with you guys on Lotus if it wasn't for the slight miscalculation of not knowing how to counter this, which is crazy because they've, seen nearly the exact same composition from you before. But the change in was, a chamber?
We got rid of the Sage, so I did better than going 0-10 and we lost. So maybe I just need to keep going 0-10 on the first half.
Maybe
that might be the answer.
Chad, is this meta?
I've tried that meta before. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah, there's some reason I just get yelled at in comms in game. I don't know, maybe this is different. But I'm glad, I'm glad your team was able to make a comeback and take it on the chin for a
reading the Twitch chat in the VOD afterwards and just seeing how bad I was getting roasted was the funniest.
It called you Bond for
ever.
So long.
I got called a bot. I got called, am I even gonna get a kill? Am I on Pie Watch? All these different things, and I was like, oh man. I even had my own friends from UAH not sticking up for me. He said, "Let's go UAH," and then I got called out, and he didn't say a word. He was silent. I'm calling you out, Mitch.
I mean,
what were they gonna say? Yeah, he stinks. Yeah. you were the stinkiest player at that time in the lobby. Now you picked it up. The Sage play was pivotal to the second half recovery, but man, I couldn't even defend you. I was like, yeah, where's the UGA Red body shots? Just bring him out of this point. At this point, it's deserved.
When we were halfway through the half, I said, guys, I'll get one eventually. Don't worry. At some point, I will get a kill, and maybe we'll win this game.
There you go. You did. But with that, Gray, we're going to go ahead and let you go to get you off to your scrim. We got through all the technical difficulties, got the questions out. Good luck in your match tomorrow. Good luck to all the UGA Red players and to UGA Red as well. Good luck on Thursday, because from the looks of it, it sounds like you're going to need it.
Thank you, guys.
Alrighty, and with that, we can finally jump over to the actual matchups and everything else in between for the series. Now I've had my train of thoughts derailed for so long for this. We'll jump on over to the Rising Star matchups down below. So we have some very good ones. Obviously, USC was able to move on, so that was an important one for them. They're facing off against Clemson, who had a really good game against UTC, another one of those ones that was a blowout. GMUB, which obviously GMU's A team is really solid, so I'm really hoping that they're going to be as impactful as expected. Obviously, the number 1 seed, so they got their bye through round 1. They didn't have to play in round 2 either, so there was maybe this time where they could be iced out. But Lander, putting up a 13-0, 13-1 performance against Florida White. Keep your eye out for this series. This will be a very, very good one. And that is on actually the 3rd. So isn't that technically on main day? It is. We haven't decided what is on stream actually this week yet for Valorant. So we could maybe eke out that to be a second stream, and I'll record it in the background and watch it because that one's going to be really good. JMUB against Florida Blue. Again, Florida is has a lot of rosters to work with in Valorant, and they have maybe a chance to make a run through this Rising Star playoff side and make something of themselves for this lower end And then UKY White versus UTK Orange. UKY White, unfortunately, just had to knock their own team out in the prior round. So they're maybe coming in with a fervor, with a frenzy to deal with UTK, who kind of trounced the higher-seeded Liberty University at that time. So maybe an important one to keep an eye on overall for the LCQ. And then that's really the impactful points for upcoming games. And then the big one, Cumberland over in, top of playoffs, who got their first round bye, the looming giant in front of the victor for UGA Red and UAH, has to face off now in the grand finals for CVAL South.
Nice.
They fought their way in a hard-fought best-of-3 series against West Virginia University. They won 2-1. The 2 maps they won, they dominated on. It was like 13-6, 13-4, but that one map, I think they lost 13-8 or 13-6. It was second map, if I recollect correctly. But they will have to face, you scroll down here, Shaka, to the very bottom. I believe it is UST. Sorry, I was close. It's UST, who was kind of expected to work their way back out of the lower bracket side. I was looking at that one the whole time. Them losing was already shocking enough, but they will be heading on to the grand finals to face off against Cumberland. And that's going to be a good match. So best of luck to Cumberland Phoenix for that matchup. That one's going to be very important to keep your eye on, because that will essentially cement them further for their continuous run here through CVAL.
Let's go. I mean, right at the top, Cumberland is competing in CRL as well. Like they'll be playing in nationals this coming weekend. So at the top of both of their respective collegiate esports here, and still finding time to play in the SEL with us. I love to see that. I mean, Cumberland's been building up for this sort of success for a long time now. So it's good to see they're representing the SEL quite well.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to what they can continue to bring to the table. And I don't think UGA Red and UAH are looking forward to it, but
no.
It doesn't get much better past that, because I think it's JMU that if they win their round 2 performance in playoffs, we can throw it back up real fast. I don't even think we talked about the other games as UAH and the rest, but they're also going to have to look at the looming giant that's heading into them for semifinals. It's Texas State, who didn't even have to face them because they'd forfeited that series because they were busy. Will likely end up facing GMU if the matchup goes as expected, though I think UTC have been working really hard to improve themselves, and I saw some great glimmers of that. But that just means Texas State's also going to have to look at the looming giant of that Cumberland Phoenix team, because there is zero expectation. We obviously heard that from UH and UGA Red talking behind the scenes, that Cumberland Phoenix have trouble in round 2, which just means where Cumberland Phoenix are looking to isn't even round 3 likely. It's probably just the finals, and they want to probably try to meet up against JMU or UGA Black, who last time they faced, JMU came out on top in a full best of 3, requiring all 3 maps to do so.
It's shaped to be
they
a
could
really
face
good bracket.
their own team.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll happen. I think UGA Black is still really, really good, but oof. I also think Niner Esports main team is really good. The only reason they lost to Charlotte is because of Ruda on map 2, and then their recovery on map 3. Which if they just played more Raze maps, I think that's how you counterban Charlotte here. If you just play a ton of Raze maps and don't let Ruda get playtime, you can beat Charlotte. So Oklahoma, y'all lost Polar. I don't have him anymore, so y'all lost your duelist. And I said that was kind of the big forte for you, is a lot of your emphasis on your front line and the effectiveness for it. If that's no longer the namestay for you, well, at least ruin their namestay. Their secondary duelist is still really good, but when it's Raze in play, it's really hard to counter that because Ruda is a monster.
It would be weird not to have Oklahoma at LAN.
It would feel very weird.
Being last season's runners up, I feel there's a little bit of pressure to get back to LAN to compete there. I would miss Oklahoma if we didn't have them, even though they would have to something crazy like a 12 or a 14-hour drive, something like that, to get from Norman to Huntsville. So I'm sure they don't look forward to that if they do qualify for LAN. But man, that is a stacked bottom side of the Valorant bracket.
Yeah, it's tough. Even the middle section, I think GMU will have the easiest time. They obviously get to pick that. They'll have the easiest time through round 1, arguably. But it's still like Texas State is a ridiculously solid team that just the only reason they're seeded 4 is because they didn't really have to play their matches. A lot of the winner's circle games are forfeits because you have CVAL matches going on.
Yeah.
You've got other league matches, and so not high priority for winner's circle for them to compete just for the sake of seeding when they know they're guaranteed into round 2. So for a couple of these teams, I think for Oklahoma, it's really important how they play, and maybe the same thing for Charlotte, because their sake for points matters a lot in terms for our participant. If you get into 3rd and 4th, you can get into the semis for round 3. That's 32 points.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're looking at, 24? Oklahoma is currently sitting at 16, so they would need that 24 to really have a great shot at being one of the 6. GMU's probably already up there to hopefully cement. I think they've guaranteed 16 right now, which would put them at 48. So they should be fairly high up. So I think GMU would be good for it, but Valorant's really tough for points. We don't know the numbers just yet. The math is really hard for us. We're not the smartest people for Valorant. It's really hard for us to get that guarantee about what the points are needed for players, considering just how wide a variety of success last semester's teams were compared to this semester. We've only have like 2 returning that are still involved actively at the high level. That'd be GNU and UGA Black. The rest are like Converse that already got knocked out. Charlotte, that yes is there, but they're tied at 5th for 16, and the same thing for Oakland, time at 5th with 16. So it's a tough battle, and it really looks like the second semester teams are just going to bury out a lot of the first semester teams if it continues rolling this way. So it's a big victory win for GMU and for Oklahoma if they can take it this week.
So get to the semifinals is kind of the trick for getting a lot of ground for LAN. It looks like, but the race is shaping up. It's going to be fun watching Valorant play out, and hoping someone can take down Cumberland for entertainment's sake. But
crazy.
The fact that Cumberland
wouldn't
already
make LAN then.
Who wouldn't make LAN?
Cumberland.
If they lose, where would they have to get to? Semifinals more than likely to clinch, or do they have to get to finals to really realistically clinch?
40 would pretty much clinch them. So second place would 100% do it. Semi would get them 32, be close. They may have to rely on 1 or 2 teams not to make it. But first would guarantee get it. 48 points is a heck of a lot of points, right? But you would, if they don't make it there, there's no chance they make LAN because they did not participate at all last year. They weren't here, so they would have nothing. They don't have this like 16 points of ground or 8 points of ground even to sit on. There's no wiggle room. They have to win or get to finals, which I don't think is going to be hard for them. But if that Texas State game does actually turn into a slugfest and Texas State does what no one really expected and actually does compete really well against Cumberland Phoenix and is the team shockingly to do that out of the winner's circle, that would be unprecedented. And the Phoenix side would have to, unfortunately, what do we call it in college football? They don't control their own destiny, right? Their hands or their destiny is in another team's hands. That's what it's going to turn into.
All right. Well, is that all the Valorant news that we've got in preparation for the playoffs? It's
been a while. It was a long birthy time with the interview, but I think that's it for us.
All right. Well, I suppose we can move on to the closing of the show then, as we do have a little bit of SEL news. There was an announcement put out earlier this week about new optional server roles. So if you're listening right now and this pertains to you, definitely visit the channels and roles section of the Discord server. You can get the recruiter role. And then the descriptions for this are in Discord. If you want to learn more about it, just peep the SEL announcements channel. But it's mainly for college recruiters looking to bring people into the program, and then student production opportunities. And this one's definitely pertinent. I mean, we're in a production right now. We're always looking to get more students involved with production, whether it is recording a side stream for Scott and Dallas to cast over a little bit later on, or help us out if we need to fill, like if someone gets food poisoning, has to miss a broadcast, hop on stream. I mean, DJ TJ was a student caster helping out with side stream stuff, and now he's a mainstay in the SEL broadcast community. So that's how you get experience right there, is you kind of put your foot in the door and see what happens.
I mean, it's a step in the right direction, right? And you know how hard it is to find talent at the last second if something happens, right? And I'll gladly take a step back if needed for somebody else to jump into Rocket League, and not have to blabble my way through a first game until I'm comfortable, right? But at the same time, I think, giving experience to new people who want to kind of jump in, whether your production role is casting, or if you want to test your luck on a side stream for just normal OBS for producing, or observing, because we've been, adding in more observers, especially when it comes to the Valorant side, right? Really observing matters. And if you got a computer and you know how to press buttons on your keyboard, reach out. We've got plenty of documents that can also help break down how to get the job done and can work with you to help and stuff improve, because it doesn't have to be just for the SEL. If you're just interested in esports and maybe you're not a good player, you know what they say, if you can't play, broadcast.
Exactly. That's what we do. That's what's gotten us here, and talking
we had
about
to retire
this.
early.
Or predict as well. Last bit of news, if you want to get in on a Rocket League prediction kind of competition, just see who's the most competent at predicting the Rocket League playoffs in RL content, there's a thread. You can drop a bracket that Real Albedo, shout out the Oklahoma Rocket League coach, put together. You can make a copy of that spreadsheet, fill out your brackets, and submit it in that thread in RL content, which is also where my predictions video is. So a little bit of SEL content that I'll self-plug right there. But let's move on. SEL on LAN. I know there's not a ton of Valorant LAN, so it is all Rocket League here. But had Collision on the Coast this past weekend. I just want to shout out the teams that finished towards the top because it was a very top-heavy SEL competition. I talked about Florida placing second there, George Mason placing third, James Madison and King right there, fifth and sixth. Then Daytona State in region, not in the SEL. UCF Passion, kind of a hodgepodge of UCF players right there with Kennesaw State is the same SEL Kennesaw State team. And then Old Dominion competed in the fall in the SEL. And then after that, UGA, unfortunately, the greatest of runs from them. But they did look pretty good. I was happy to see some of the wins that they got on the board. And then Full Sail.
Is Akron a Rocket League school now?
Dude, Akron is just an esports school in general.
Yeah, because they're literally in Tier 2 play for R6. They have done the unexpected and are a collegiate team in semi-pro.
Only Rocket League team as well to ever make an RLCS main event as a collegiate roster. Even Cumberland hasn't done it this season yet, which they could in Split 2, but Akron did it first. And we'll talk about the Bluegrass Boost Battle here as well, because I guess we can shout out Akron. They won both lands. Not fair. Akron won both these lands like within 20 minutes of each other, too. They lifted trophies about 20 minutes apart, which is absurd. I put out a tweet about it. I don't think it's ever been done in collegiate Rocket League history. I'm pretty confident in saying that. But shout out Concord, top 4 there. But Cumberland went out top 8, got some cash, but a top 8 performance, not too shabby. I know they know that they can do better. And then, we got to shout out UTK Retirement Home. Somehow Fisher and Northwood upset UTK Retirement Home in group play. I know, and so that put them in third there in their group, and they weren't able to get a win against the top 8 of CRL, which is basically the top 8 of BBB. It was literally the exact same teams that are playing in CRL Nationals this weekend were the top 8 at BBB. So unfortunately, East Tennessee State as well, Kentucky, didn't stand too much of a chance in their groups as they were thrust into a stacked event. But hey, ETSU got a win over Cincinnati, so I consider that a W for the SEL there, taking out those pesky northern teams. But last shout out as well. Obviously, Cumberland did well in BBB. They are playing in CRL Nationals this weekend. Guys, good luck. You're representing the SEL well already and everything you already play in, but good luck at CRL Nationals. They're starting off with St. Clair Green. So Cumberland squeaked in as the 8th seed in a CRL National, didn't play in that first open event, which cost them some points, but they made it in. And they get St. Clair Green first, which they're capable of beating. So I'm excited to see what Cumberland can do here because they're the one SEL school at the tip top of CRL. Same with CVAL, Scott. It's the narrative this season. It's Cumberland's just repping us in all the top competitions.
Yeah, I really hope to see Cumberland make it all the way through to play at LAN for NC State. I think that would be really big for them because then they have the chance to go. They got LAN for SEL, and I think literally the NC State CVAL LAN is a week after, if I recollect. That's what it was for me last year when I flew to Boise. It's just a week after. So they'd have back-to-back weekends of action-packed Valorant and, with the docket of potentially taking the victory in both of those. So time will tell. Like we said, Cumberland, their fate is in their hands. They lose a single game. They're in control, unfortunately, for everybody else to not make it, and apparently their cars not function to drive their way on over to our LAN location. But we expect more from them because they are so scary. they are so scary to watch play Valorant. Is a very impressive team.
That'd be a crazy run as well because if they were to take the CECC spots for the SEL, that LAN is 2 weeks before the SEL LAN. So they would have CECC, a weekend off, then SEL, then CVAL. That would be an insane run for the Phoenix. But I guess that's what happens when it's LAN season and you're a pretty good team.
Yeah, pretty good. Maybe an understatement for players at that level. You're talking about performing at CECC and then the SEL top, the best of the best for us, and then the best of the best in the country overall for CVAL. Yeah. They got to make it there, but they're already in the good standings to do so. So best of luck to Converse for the remainder of the season, but more specifically for their grand final matchup for South against UST, if I remember correctly. I'm really bad at remembering things 5 minutes ago, but
All right. Well, it's time to close out the show. We've had our hour of fun here at State of the SEL. Same time, same place every week, every Tuesday for the rest of the season. We'll see how long we go. Rest of time every week for the rest of our natural
Fred, you owe
lives.
me every week for the remainder.
That's steady income right there. But that is the end of our show. Thank you so much for watching. We got Rocket League tomorrow night, 7 Central, kicking off with Florida Southern College and George Mason University. And then Valorant on Thursday. You guys haven't chosen your stream matches yet, right?
We do have a side stream tomorrow, guaranteed, of UAH versus UGA Red. So the match we highlighted a lot today and had an interview with Gray about, that will be on a broadcast, but we will be deciding the mainstream game probably tonight for everybody. So stay tuned for any postings about that on our social media.
All right. And follow our social media everywhere. Esports SEL, Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, all the big T's of socials. Of course, follow Mr. Infernosis to my digital right. Follow myself as well, Bepic Casts on Twitter. Wrong finger. There we go. All right. And of course, support Shaka as well, our awesome producer, putting on a great show as always. And thank yourselves for being such great viewers tonight, even through the tech difficulties, helping us through that. So, yeah, I think that's about it. Everybody have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow for Rocket League.